What if there was a place where wanting it all meant getting it too? New Cape Line sparkling cocktails are swooping in to transport you to a seriously delicious paradise. They come at you with all the flavor you want, nothing you don't, in margarita, hard strawberry lemonade, and blackberry mojito varieties. Plus, they're made with just 6 simple ingredients and nothing artificial. Welcome to having your cake and eating it too. Head to capeline.com and find out where you can get your hands on the go-to drink of this summer. Welcome to Cape Line. Celebrate responsibly. 2019 Cape Line Beverages, Memphis, Tennessee.
Stretches things out a little bit longer and just not direct answers,
So what?
Well, the number one thing that I asked him is, as far as his plans in the future, if y'all did move forwards on this, what was his goal in life? And of course, it was the music industry. And I asked him what his accomplishments were up to this point. And he was very proud of the dog food jingle that he did. And
That's not what...
that's what he said he was, proud of right now.
Hello! And welcome to Bachelor Party, presented by Cape Line, proudly a part of the Ringer Podcast Network. I am Mallory Rubin, executive editor of TheRinger.com. Joining me today, I hope to help me pen a jingle, perhaps for cat food, because I am a cat owner. It's Ringer staff writer, your beloved bachelorologist, and perhaps moving forward, a Better Bowl enthusiast, Rodger Sherman.
My dogs don't eat Better Bowl yet.
Yeah.
I try not to get too worked up about The Bachelor. It's a fun TV show where dumb things happen. If Hannah picks Jed over Tyler, I'm going to lose it.
Oh my.
I'm going to lose it, man.
Okay.
Jed is so much worse that we can talk about it for the next hour. But
I think we will.
Tyler is so good and Jed is so bad.
You're visibly angry.
Yes, that's why we brought in cameras today.
That's
just to
right, to capture the angst and the rage. Rodger and I are here today filling in for Juliette Lippman in the Ringer's windmill of content, if you will. And much like Hannah and Peter, we have, 4-ish things that we want to cover today.
Oh, wow. I didn't know where you were going with that.
It's an adventure for us, just like for them. We are obviously going to be on your podcast feeds. We're live right now on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And tonight, we will all watch Hannah's Bachelorette journey conclude, hopefully with her picking Tyler, the obvious and only correct choice, but potentially with her picking Jed.
How is it even close?
I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows.
What season of this show is Hannah watching?
I can't answer these questions. There's no logical defense, and that's one of the things we're going to get to. We are going to talk about Peter, who we said farewell to last night on part 1 of the 2-part finale, as Chris Harrison would say.
Always a 2-part finale, which I didn't know was a thing outside of...
Listen, there's so much drama, so many twists and turns. The most dramatic ever. You can't fit it all in one night, apparently.
Night 2, he said, we've never seen anything like it.
Even he doesn't know what's going to happen, Rodger.
He filmed it, and he has memory loss. It was that crazy.
Well, there's a lot of live action,
That's true.
Both last night and still to come tonight. So we're gonna predominantly talk about what happened on night 1. We're gonna talk about Peter, who sadly went home. We're gonna talk about Tyler, obviously, who maybe in the least surprising turn of events in recorded human history, Hannah's family loved. Who among us, We are going to talk about Jed at length. It's just a all-time Jed episode. And we're going to look ahead to night 2 of the finale, offer up some, maybe not predictions, but certainly hopes, dreams, and I think deep-seated fears. And we are going to, in the immortal words of Juliette Lippman, batch.
Let's batch.
Let's do it. Let's start with Peter because, the episode opened.
Pilot feet gone, flew off into the sunset.
What an exit for Peter, though. I mean, for a guy who went home and was crushed and is clearly still despondent, it was about as positive of a couple hours as it could have been, both in the Grease segments And in the live show where we learned that Peter and Hannah actually had sex 4 times in the famed windmill.
There is no better breakup scenario for a guy. I mean, being dumped and the woman is like, everything about him is wonderful and I could not stop having sex with him.
I will say there's one flip side interpretation of that, which is I had sex with this guy 4 times and then immediately broke up with him.
The next time they saw each other, it was over.
Open to interpretation. We're obviously going to discuss that a little bit more, but we opened live and got a few minutes of setup, and then we're right back in Greece in the post-Luke exit shared celebration where for just a few moments before Peter, Tyler, and Jed remember that they're enemies competing for the same woman, they're all like, oh my God, high-fiving Luke, he
gone,
sucks,
yeah.
I'm so glad he's gone, Hannah crushed it, Hannah was such a badass. Of course, Tyler is, among the most complimentary of Hannah and her free and independent spirit. Wonderful to see. You love to see it. And then there's this moment where it all like sinks back in and they remember that one of them is about to go home. And the very palpable shift in their demeanors, their facial expressions, and the vibe when Chris Harrison comes out and moves.
He moved the table back. He moved the table back.
Hysterical.
That felt like when there's like a bad sequel to a movie and they still want to make a third movie. Mm-hmm. He just moved the table back and was like, actually, nothing happened. None of that ever. It's gone. We're moving forward. Luke was never here.
Did you think that was Chris Harrison saying, this is my moment, to get in here, get a little TRT, boost my TRT for the Bachelor Party pod tally? Or do you think that there was some recognition of the fact that the moving of the table was going to be a thing when we see it previously from Hannah, and that we want to continue, much like Colton's fence and all of these other objects that have become a part of Bachelor lore, reinforcing what had happened with the table the first time by moving it back helps etch it into our memories forever.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Harrison knows a moment when he sees it.
It's true.
He's
a pro.
Most of his job is coming in and saying there's 1 rose left, which is completely unnecessary because we all can count 1 rose. But when he sees a moment, he seizes it. He knows how to make a good entrance.
He knows that there's drama, right? There are dramatic finales, but to ensure that it's
how do you make it the most? That's his job every season.
The most dramatic finale. You got to move a table. If the chance is there to move a table.
Is that just the Chris Harrison pronunciation of?
That's how he says it, and it cracks me up every time. Finale.
I say finale.
I also say
There's an E
finale.
At the end.
Finale.
He's really pulling out the Italian in it.
It's wonderful.
He's going back to the mother.
There's a little bit of the theater scene in Inglourious Bastards. Antonio, finale.
That's Chris Harrison pulling out all the stuff.
Channeling his inner Tarantino, maybe. So Hannah gives the first rose to Jed, which I think we can all agree is a
panicking,
troubling sign, because it indicates she is very, very tortured, very torn up about some part of the decision that she's making. And when she gives Jed the first rose, it's clear that, at least in this moment in the episode, is not the thing that she's unsure about. The thing that she's unsure about, the thing that now, if we think back to a couple weeks ago when she described how everything had changed for her in a day, that was clearly about Peter and Tyler. She gives the rose to Tyler. Thank the gods. But that means that Peter goes home, which is crushing because Pilot Pete has also been a fan favorite. I mean, no one obviously can rise to the level of adoration that Tyler's currently enjoying, the great unifying force in the world. And also, I'm not sure if we've ever mentioned this on the podcast, but very good looking young man.
He's attractive. I brought extra water to spray you with in case you get too carried away.
I will say Tyler. You promised that you would bring a bucket of ice, and I do not see that, and so I feel slightly unprepared for the journey to come.
We don't have enough buckets around Ringer headquarters.
We also have a lot of exposed wiring in here, so
we'll
find other ways to monitor my enthusiasm. But Peter is genuinely not only torn up, but shocked. He really did not think that he was going home. Hannah, who I think is amazing, I think we agree has had an incredible season and is awesome. I would not say that she does a great job of explaining it to him in the moment, and not a much better job of explaining it to him on the live show when they have their debrief. tells him in the moment in Greece that he's perfect, that there was nothing wrong. And then they share a absolutely wonderful moment where they are both clearly alluding to the windmill sex by making meaningful eyes at each other and talking about how amazing the week was, which, getting back
could
to
only
the point
refer
earlier,
to one possible thing.
Seems like they both really enjoyed it. They're still thinking of it quite fondly.
Maybe they just had a great date.
Yeah. That
they
seems like
enjoyed
what might
eating
have
dinner
happened.
in a random hotel somewhere.
gonna
That's
say
what they were
something
talking
else.
about.
When you started that sentence, but we'll keep it family friendly. Peter says he regrets nothing. And then as Hannah is walking him to the car, he begins.
Oh, the waterworks. The
Begins to
waterworks
cry.
come out. Yeah, I think that's a huge moment for him.
It's great.
You got to cry if you want to be the next Bachelor.
Right.
The tears have to come out.
We get the double tears from Peter. We get tears with Hannah, in front of Hannah, as they are embracing, as they are sharing their farewell. And then, of course, we get the quintessential limo tears.
Yeah.
The car tears.
And I think, if you just got dubbed on The Bachelorette and you want to be the next Bachelor, you've got to find it within you to somehow, I don't know, dabble water on your face, do something, because that's how you get there. He followed the roadmap well.
You can
He's bringing the plane in for the landing.
He is. You can never tell for sure, but it did seem very sincere.
Of course it does, but I have to analyze it as if it's not. That's my job.
It's all about
here.
the game plan for you.
Yes, I consider it, like you said bachelorologist, which implies that there's science to it.
That's
you
right.
need the tears.
I like it. I think it was basically a perfect exit for Peter. And this is before we even get to his performance at the live show, which is like instantly in the pantheon of Bachelor live show moments. Just in Greece, he has Hannah reinforce basically that he's ideal husband material, right? He shows emotion. He shows vulnerability. He also shows charm. He's complimentary. Like, he doesn't shift into, oh, well, she screwed me over. I'm resentful. I don't understand. He had decorum. He had poise. It was a perfect audition tape.
And she not only was the sex voluminous, but she compared it to the Olympian gods. And that's all the Olympian gods did, is have sex all the time. She's like, he was like Zeus and I was like Aphrodite, which is not necessarily a mythologically apt coupling, but having sex like a god is like a good thing to say about someone.
Yeah, seems like the kind of compliment many people would like to receive. I think that, look, when in Greece, make a Mount Olympus comp.
No.
I felt like, frankly, we
it.
did not get nearly enough comparisons of Tyler and actual statues of Greek gods, but we'll save that for later, the Tyler segment. So to the live show we go, and we get a lot of time with Peter. Obviously, Jed and Tyler are not a part of the live show experience because neither of them is eliminated, right? We should say that. We do not get a conclusion. We do not get Hannah's pick on night one. That's obviously going to be
So it's an
night
all
two.
Peter episode, from that perspective.
Well, and Peter's family.
And Peter's family. I think we got I think the first sign that we're dealing with an interesting family here is if you go all the way back, Peter's telling Hannah about his family. He says, my mom saw my dad's butt. He's like, first of all, my mom, who is a beauty queen, by the way. He mentions that first and then says, my mom, who is a beauty queen, saw my dad. She saw his butt and she knew that she was going to marry that man. That's an interesting story to tell your child. It's an interesting story for your child to like ingrain within themselves. And it doesn't surprise me that when the 4 times story comes apart, this family is just so thrilled for their son who's bones like a god. They were like, yeah!
They were really so happy and so proud. It was like they had just watched him win an Olympic medal or something. And I don't know what actually requires more stamina and exertion. Fucking 4 times in one night or like running a decathlon. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes him the most athletic man in Bachelor history. I mean, it's like they were like, oh, honey, our kid is just so good at boning.
They were so proud. I mean, before the 4 times reveal, even just when there were like allusions to the sex, They were cheering, they were smiling, they were proud, they were whooping. Mom was mic'd up because we had a tender moment before that where she, expressed how painful it is to watch her child go through this kind of suffering. We also got the requisite or at least attempt to get some closure conversation between Peter and Hannah. I will say it seems clear that Peter is still in love with Hannah.
Yeah, that happens. And that's another thing you have to do if you want to be the next Bachelor.
Well, you need to walk that line, though, because you need to simultaneously show that your feelings aren't fleeting, like you're in this for a real connection with somebody.
For some sort of right reason.
But that you have moved on to the point where you are then ready.
He doesn't have to be there yet. He's still on the right.
He's got the Bachelor in Paradise window still to continue to heal. He asked Hannah for an explanation, basically, and she told him that through fantasy suites, she was sure he would be meeting her family. So, again, reinforcing the idea that he really was final two until she watched Tyler walk away, again, after not sleeping with Tyler, and decided that she wasn't ready. It was shocking. Decided that she wasn't ready to say goodbye to Tyler. Reinforced again that nothing was wrong, that Peter didn't do anything wrong, though she did say that she wished he had been more vocal about his feelings. She said,
she just needed to say something.
You not expressing to me verbally how you felt. I thought she emphasized verbally, indicating clearly that he had expressed how he felt in other ways, specifically 4 times in a windmill.
I mean, let's go.
Did that explanation seem legitimate to you at all?
No, it's just she had to say something. She had to base it in reasoning. She had 6 months to come up with That's the best she could come up with. It's fine. He
was clearly smitten the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, she. It seems like she's got a weird thing for Jed. And how could you eliminate Tyler? You had to get rid of Peter, and you had to explain it somehow. And let's come. You bring up the not having sex with Tyler before.
I'm harping on it.
You can't break up with Tyler if you haven't.
Well, though.
So this goes back to your theory. She already had sex with Peter, and she's like, okay, I got that out of the way. I don't need him anymore.
I agree that it would be inconceivable to say goodbye to Tyler without sleeping with him first. However, that is still on the table. Right now, that is still a possible outcome because Hannah and Tyler did not have sex in this episode despite rolling around together on a bed for a long stretch of time. And so if she picks Jed, that's presumably it. There's no other window to sleep with Tyler.
She can't pick Jed.
Well,
I think she's saving the good stuff.
I pray that you're right. We get the windmill reveal with an assist from Chris Harrison, who brings it up by saying no one will ever look at a windmill the same. Correct. He's right. And they giggle, they laugh. Peter's parents are hooting. His brother is hooting. And then Hannah says, she's got a confession to make, right? And there's this moment, I think, shared terror. Are we gonna find out that what we thought about the windmill wasn't true? And it turns out that we are, but in a great way, because she says, I will say, I was a little dishonest about something. Since it's out there, I did say there was something that Peter and I did twice. It was actually 4 times.
The other theory is that she didn't want to have sex with Tyler because she just had sex 4 times the previous night.
Well,
that's a quick turnaround to all of a sudden.
We don't know Hannah's personal preferences or stamina. We don't know how much time really passed. We don't actually know the order that the dates happened in.
We don't necessarily know what 4 times means. So
this is one of the things I want to talk about. Let's try to keep this in check to the extent that we're capable of doing so. This is a moment of shared joy and euphoria. Everyone at home is laughing. Everybody in the audience is whooping.
And mom and dad are taking pictures.
Peter's parents look so proud. Our little boy can bone 4 times in one night.
Just like us, honey.
That was the implication. Chris Harrison literally says, "Oh, Dad puffing his chest out like it's some sort of genetic predisposition to be able to have sex 4 times in one night." Here's my take on this. If you're having sex 4 times in one night, you are either extraordinarily good at it or exceptionally bad at it and needed all 4 times to get the desired outcome for Hannah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's
throwing it out there as a possibility.
Yeah.
Care to comment?
That's up there. He didn't know how to put a condom on. He just had no idea what was going on.
Let's not besmirch Peter's ability to practice safe sex because he carries a condom with him in his car.
Yeah, no. Maybe there were like prolonged bouts of crying in between. We don't know.
Maybe.
It could have been, yeah.
Did it look like there was a lot of like ventilation in that room, or the opportunity for hygiene and freshening up?
Here's the other thing: the windmill.
A lot of questions.
The windmill was literally a bed and like 1 foot at the foot of the bed. There was nothing in the room besides the bed. It's not like they could go like, "Hey, let's watch TV," or like, "Let's sit at a couch and like drink some wine." There was a bed.
Am I remembering correctly that there was on another level of the windmill, there was like a couch area, and that was where they had the trunk of the snacks and prophylactics, or was the trunk by the bed?
The trunk was by the bed at the foot of the bed. Their windmills are not
spacious, but
apparently extremely conducive because there's nothing else to do once they close that door on you and you're stuck in the windmill for the next 12 hours. It's just we can talk about ancient Greek architecture or we can get it on 4 times.
Maybe they did both. Who knows what kind of role play was involved?
Yeah. You be Zeus, I'll be Aphrodite.
Yeah. Who can say? Got to keep it fresh over the 4 times, even if you can't actually keep it fresh with like the aid of running water or anything of that nature.
I like have the feeling if you go to the Pete households, which is like 1 mile from the Bachelor mansion, they're going to have like a framed picture of like him making out with Hannah.
Some
like
sort of medal.
Aggressively like they're like objectively like.
They were really proud.
If there was like video, they would have like watched it as a family and been like, "Oh, he's doing such a good job in there."
I love it. It's been a sex positive season. This is a sex positive family. It's great.
Shout out to half Cuban people everywhere. Those are my people.
Were you surprised that Chris Harrison did not press Peter at all on the claims from his ex-girlfriend? I thought that was going to come up basically because Chris Harrison indicated on this very podcast that while he believed clearly that Peter had not done anything wrong or transgressed and that information that he had made him confident that everything here was okay, that it was still, while obviously nowhere near the caliber of the storm around Jed, had become something of a news story. This was not a thing.
I mean, The Bachelor does not like that this world they've created can now be altered from the outside. Right. I wasn't surprised that it didn't come up. No one else was no one was talking about it.
And especially if Peter is a Bachelor candidate, I mean, I guess on the one hand, you need to assess whether any kind of image rehabilitation is necessary, but it doesn't seem like Bachelor Nation has soured on Peter in any way, if anything, quite the contrary. So where do you put Peter's Bachelor prospects right now, with the obvious caveat that we don't know who Hannah is going to pick? There is literally no way, if she picks Tyler, that Jed is a contender for The Bachelor. That is impossible to even.
Yes. First of all, because we hate him.
He is loved by all. But if she picks Jed, perish the thought. But if she picks Jed, Tyler would seem like one of the most formidable contenders in the history of the world. Then you have Peter. Then you have Mike. Those are 3 like all-time candidates. And then you have the prospect, which Chris Harrison mentioned on Bachelor Party last week, of somebody emerging from Paradise.
I just want to run this by you. Would you rather Tyler win this season because he deserves it, or would you rather have another season where Tyler is the Bachelor and gets to, pick his queen himself?
So you pressed me on this a little bit in the office the other week. You forced me to look inward because you basically said, I don't understand why you'd want him to win this season, because that would mean he couldn't be the Bachelor and thus you couldn't watch him on television for another season. That's a good and valid point. I just cannot conceive of not picking Tyler.
It's a moral. It has to be him because it has to be him.
Every now and then something happens in your life or you witness something happen in somebody else's life that makes you question the very core of humanity.
The fiber of the universe will tear itself apart if
Why
she picks
are we
Jed.
all here? What is it for?
Yes.
Not picking Tyler would be the kind of thing that made us ask those existential questions, right?
What is the purpose of human love if not picking Tyler here?
I don't know.
Sorry, we've diverged
We're
from
not
Peter.
even on the Tyler section.
We've
We're
diverged
about
from
to be.
Peter because
Do you think Peter would be a good bachelor, and should Peter be the bachelor?
Yeah, you know what I like about him? He's extremely bland.
Mm-hmm.
He's extremely bland, and that's very important in a bachelor because basically you just sit there and smile and nod, and all this stuff happens around you, and you have to just be completely like bland about it. They love that. I'm not saying. I think it would probably be better if they picked an interesting person, but historically they tend to choose people who are complete blank slates that can just reflect all of the things happening around them, and that's totally Peter. I don't know anything about him as a person besides he loves flying planes, he loves the Seattle Seahawks, and I only know that from Instagram, and he bodes.
Yeah, he drives around with a condom in his car, refers to his car as my baby.
And his Mercedes, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best bachelors in recent years was Nick, and he certainly had a personality.
Yeah.
So there's a template there for saying someone who has a lot of energy and is willing to say what he thinks and is going to be a little bit divisive. Tyler is not divisive, though. He is, again, beloved by all.
He's a source of good in the world. He's an unending fountain of.
Okay, I would love to see. Here it is. Here's the answer to your question. I would love to watch Tyler on television for another season. I'm not sure that I could actually survive watching him be sexual with that many women. It's just thinking about it is so overwhelming. I don't want anything to soil the Tyler experience. It's been so pure and so beautiful, and I worry that prolonged exposure can only lead to disappointment. That's my reservation. In addition to just not being able to understand how Hannah
I think you've got to choose the best possible thing. I think you can't try to shield yourself from disappointment. You've got to get that Tyler experience.
You're right. I shouldn't be afraid. Now a quick break for a word from our sponsor. Whether or however you're listening to this podcast right now, you should take a moment and check out Stitcher. Those of you listening on Stitcher already get why. For those who don't know, Stitcher is a free podcast app for iPhone and Android. Stitcher is home to more than 260,000 podcasts, from favorites like Here to Make Friends or The Rewatchables, to new hit shows such as Best Friends with Nicole Byer and Sashir Zameda, and of course, your favorite, Bachelor Party. Stitcher also has smart recommendations and playlists so you can find new great shows and organize all of your current podcasts. If you're on your phone, download Stitcher for free right now in the App Store, Play Store, or visit stitcherapp.com/bachelorparty to learn more. All right, let's move on to Tyler because we, shockingly for the two of us, are off pace here. We're going to talk about all of the Tyler stuff from this episode together. So the family visit, and then Tyler and Hannah's one-on-one time, and then we're going to get to Jed after. So the big picture setup here, just for some context, is, first of all, as we stated, that we have Tyler, a literal Greek god in Greece, amazing setting, and that Hannah's family loved Tyler and hated Jed.
Yes.
That is the backdrop.
Yes. It's I can't remember a final two where it was more clear that everything went well with one person.
Right.
And there was no part of the Jed scenario that went well. The family date was bad. Their date itself was
awful.
Caused her to
literally vomit
from seasickness. And they spent the entire time in the room together just worrying about things. And then Tyler is just you're doing great, you're perfect.
Right.
The family got along perfectly, everything went well, they laughed, they smiled, they straddled each other.
Right. So Hannah's dad, Robert, mom, Suzanne.
Wonderful hair on Robert.
Fabulous. Credit to Jeff Chow for pointing out that he looks like a hybrid of Rex Ryan and Mike Ditka.
I was going to say he looks like Alabama Gandalf.
Oh, interesting. Gandalf the Gray or Gandalf the White?
I'm not from this world like you are. I don't know the difference between those two things you just said. I just know that there's a movie where a guy with long white hair, and I'm imagining if that person liked Lynyrd Skynyrd, they would look like Hannah's dad.
Quite an episode for Hannah's dad, who, while he expressed some maybe concerning views on gender roles in the family household, also delivered some astounding dunks on Jed, looked at Tyler with the love that we all feel, and really did deliver one of the best lines in Bachelor history, which we'll get to when we talk about Jed. But for Tyler, I thought the setup from Hannah to her family was fascinating. She, again, unsurprisingly, was really candid with them, was not afraid to talk about the physical side of their relationship, explained to them that she was worried about falling in lust with Tyler, that she had been worried about, that's what was holding her back.
Same.
Again, who among us?
Yeah.
And she even mentions the fantasy suites to her family. And who knows, how much was explicitly stated that we didn't see, but they got the picture. They understand clearly that these two have not been they've been physically intimate because Hannah explains that they can't keep their hands off each other, but they have not actually had sex. They did not have sex.
Peter's
in the
parents would be
fantasy
so
suites.
upset if they heard that. They would be like, "Oh, she didn't make love to my boy."
One of the great things about this episode, honestly, was that we got both sides of the spectrum and everything in between, celebrating choosing to be sexually active in your own life and also choosing not to be. And all of that is fine depending on how you're feeling in a given moment and how you feel with a given person. It's this season has been such a breath of fresh air in that particular respect.
The conversation about sex on The Bachelor has gotten in one way weirder, but also a lot more accepting it. It used to be you get into those fantasy suites, you better have sex with that person.
Yeah, I mean, it is not to let's never mention Luke again if we can help it, but that is one of the reasons that the Luke thing was so appalling. It would have been in a vacuum, of course, but compared to how progressive the rest of the conversation about Hannah's sex life had been, it was just really felt like it was from not only a different time, but a different universe. So Tyler comes in, he looks fucking great. He meets the family.
Do we have a water gun that I can spray her with during this segment just to keep her?
It was just a nice polo shirt, those tight, light gray pants.
Interesting.
Carrying himself with confidence, his hair, freshly groomed.
Stop it.
Wonderful.
Stop.
Cool, calm, and collected.
You are not cool, calm, or collected right now.
And
you're sweating.
He starts, I'm sure I will be if I'm not yet. He starts telling them about his background. Hannah mentions dancing. And we're college football enthusiasts, right? You're a college football expert. You spend a lot of time covering it. We got an incredible moment where Tyler basically reveals that his dancing origin story is that his GPA was in the shitter and Wake had to boost it, presumably so that he could remain academically eligible to be on the team.
Yeah.
By making him stay for summer school and giving him dancing classes, and then he fell in love.
The first thing he says to the mother of the woman who loves is, well, I got a D in econ and I got kicked out of English class.
That was tough.
But it made him a lover of the fine arts.
It's true.
It
speaks to a certain perseverance.
Yes. He realized that you can also get a degree in dancing.
Listen, he contains multitudes, as we've said before, a man of many talents and interests. Very charming moment where Hannah's mom asks if she's shown him her pirouette, and he's like, You have a pirouette? Just
he seemed like a little bit hurt that she hadn't shown him the pirouette, but also so fascinated to learn that they both had pirouettes.
There's so much more ahead for these two.
There is, if Hannah is smart and doesn't make the wrong decision. God! Anyway, moving on.
So...
Yeah, I'm a big celebrator of BS college classes. They're wonderful. Everyone needs to take a few of them.
Just a tremendous moment there for Wake football. Tyler gets his one-on-one time with Hannah's mom. She asks him, in essence, about honesty and communication. The subtext and the overt text was, if you make a mistake one day, will you own it?
Of course, I'll never make a mistake. It's perfect.
We hope. I thought this was interesting. What informed that line of questioning? Is it heartache that Hannah has experienced in the past? We have heard Hannah say that her parents don't communicate in their marriage in the way that she hopes and wants to communicate with her spouse one day. So it was interesting to kind of think, based on what we know about Hannah and what we know about her family, what might be informing that line of questioning. There's also the possibility that, much like Hannah's initial response to Tyler, they're looking at him and saying, oh my God, you probably just walk down the street every day and literally everyone who looks at you wants to sleep with you. Or are you prepared to deal with that for the rest of your life?
Yeah, you'd think it was an adultery-themed question.
I don't know, but I think that there are many ways we can interpret it, all of which are interesting, and that regardless of what the motivation was, Tyler handled it with a plume.
As always.
I love him. He's so hot.
You're falling back in your seat, giggling.
Oh, I'm trying to stay focused. It's so hard. So then...
Nothing went wrong with the parents, with Tyler.
Right. Tyler meets the dad. And what does Hannah's dad ask Tyler about? The fantasy suites.
Oh, yeah. And they have a nice conversation where he talks about respect and...
wanting Hannah to be the mother of his children.
Yes.
And Hannah's dad leaves that conversation and says, Tyler seems to be the real deal. Both of her parents love him. They think he's respectful. They think that he's ready for marriage, ready to start this next phase of his life. And Hannah is obviously elated to hear this, relieved, certainly. And when she and Tyler have their debrief after the fact, she finally drops one of the many Bachelor versions of the L word. She says, I know that I've been falling in love with you. I've been excited to tell you. And he smiles. He does that little nostril flare that's so charming. And
Jesus
he says,
Christ, you're noticing the nostril flares?
Oh, how
you're
could
marking
you not?
down the nostril
Yeah, well,
flare?
that's one of the things about his face is that he has like such
Jesus
sharp
Christ.
angles, so finely chiseled. And so your eye is drawn. You know, in some people, you're drawn to one feature, but Tyler is the feature. So you have to assess every part of him. I take this seriously,
Down
just
to the
like
nostrils,
you. Oh,
huh?
of course. You'll notice it now that I've mentioned it.
I'll go back and I'll just be like, those are some sexy ass nostrils.
It's great. I
wanna
love it.
Fondle the nostrils.
Tyler also like sniffs a fair amount, and
Jesus
as
Christ.
someone who personally is afflicted with seasonal allergies, I'm like, maybe my guy needs a Claritin or something. Just my heart goes out to him.
Oh, I thought you were saying that the sniffling was like another thing that was like drawing you to him as like a sexual being.
I think it's humanizing.
It's humanizing. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Tyler sniffs
He's
just
got
like the
those
rest of
sex
us.
sniffles that just drive me nuts.
I love him. Hannah has now told both Tyler and Jed that she's falling in love with them. So we got the Ben Higgins here.
That
we got the Ben
happens.
Higgins this season. We're like so used to it now that it doesn't even feel notable.
When Ben did it, it was like, oh,
this is the new
and
normal.
Now every single person does it. Yeah, it's fine. It's good drama. Chris Harrison loves it.
It is wonderful. Finale. So in her ITM, Hannah is describing the evolution of her relationship with Tyler. And what word does she use? Surprising.
How?
I don't know. She says it snuck up on her very quickly.
Don't get it.
And it does seem completely true that Hannah was just afraid to let herself fall for a guy that seems that perfect, because no one is perfect. Nothing is perfect. And you're setting yourself up for potential heartache and disappointment. She also, we heard her tell him, like, I thought you were a player. I look at you and I think you're a player. And it took a while for her to really believe that this genuine, winning, charismatic.
Well, not at Wake Forest. He wasn't winning, but.
Is this where you cite his stat line against Florida State?
He went 5 for 19 with 3 interceptions. That's really bad. But this is the same thing that you said about not wanting him to be the Bachelor. You're like, oh, I don't want it to be ruined. You can't think that way. You got to go for it.
Listen.
And she's got to go for Tyler. And if not, she's crazy. But also, if he falls, he must be the next Bachelor. Moving on.
He overcame the stat line against the Knowles. He switched positions. He went to FAU. He got his MBA.
Uh-huh.
Tyler finds a way, always. The one-on-one date that they have after the perfect family visit.
They force him to ride horses again, even though he hates horses. But he loves her so much that he overcomes the horses.
So it's branded as a redo. Before we get to the horses, I think we owe it to ourselves and our listeners as journalists, as objective journalists, observational journalists, people who not only believe in data analysis and reporting, but in what we see with our eyes.
Are you going to talk about what he was wearing?
He looked
Jesus
perfect in that outfit, Rodger.
How are the nostrils?
They're great. I don't understand how Tyler in a plain black t-shirt, skin tight jeans, and boots looks better than any person in like full black tie royal regalia has ever looked. He looked flawless. Could you spot a flaw?
What am I supposed to do while she does this? Am I just supposed to sit here and let her go? Or am
He
I
looked so good. It took me so long to watch the episode because I kept pausing to just look at him. Both when I was watching the screener at work and then again at night when I watched the real episode with my husband. I just kept pausing to talk about how good Tyler looked.
What does your husband do when you do that?
He also thinks Tyler is an incredibly good-looking guy.
Okay.
He's also used to this. You've heard how I've talked about Jorah Mormont for years.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Tyler looks great.
I'm not going to ask you to pick.
Please don't. Thank you. I appreciate that. The date again is presented as a redo. And it is also because Tyler could not ride the horse, right? Couldn't get the horse near Hannah on the first horse riding date that they shared. And it is obviously supposed to be. It is presented to the viewers as such, and they perceive it as such. This is about overcoming obstacles, Rodger. This is about proving that we can find a way through the challenges that life throws at us. I perceive this as a not so subtle sexual metaphor. Like, just ride it. That was how I thought it played. No? Yes?
There's subtle genuine vibes going on here.
It just felt like a very loaded metaphor to me.
Anyway,
I need you to rest your musical vocal cords until we get to the Better Bowl jingle.
No,
please pace yourself.
Okay, yes. I mean, I think it's unfair if this person says he hates horses.
Yeah, he really doesn't like.
He doesn't like horses.
He's afraid.
Stop putting him in front of horses. He doesn't deserve this, but yet he handles it, as you said, with a plume, which honestly is not how I thought that word was pronounced.
He had a wonderful moment where he was describing how he was trying to bond with the horse, before he mounted it again, taking things slow.
He has respect for every living thing.
He does. It's so beautiful. What a pure and gentle soul.
I think that we need to rig up a system where we shock Mal with small amounts of electricity every time she starts talking about Tyler.
Oh, I really thought I got some of this out of my system last night when I was texting Juliet and Jason Gallagher, but apparently that was not the case. When they're talking about the family visit, and Hannah tells Tyler how well it went, how much her family loved him, what does he do?
He lights up, right? He's like...
He does light up, but what does he do specifically? He credits her.
Oh, yeah.
He says, you've just pushed me to such a level that I've never been to. Amazing.
You see, this is one of my favorite people to be on The Bachelor in years. I think he's one of the best contestants ever. He seems like a perfect guy off the show, but it's still just incredible just watching you just completely lose all sense of self.
We got a couple Tyler speeches in this episode. One of them we get.
He's so good at giving speeches. How is he coming up with this stuff off the cuff?
It's incredible, especially, again, in contrast to Jed, who, I was going to say no shade at Jed, but all shade, full shade.
Yeah.
Can't really form an intelligible sentence.
Every good thing that happens to Tyler is also by definition, another sign that he's better than Jed. And it's not a close competition between them. You don't have to feel bad about saying no shade to Jed when it is the choice here is Tyler and Jed.
You're right.
And he just surpasses him in every way.
One of my personal beliefs and philosophies is that life it's not about binaries. But with Tyler and Jed, it kind of is. It's really just one is here and one is here.
It's a really good versus evil thing that we'll see whether she goes to the dark side or not.
So here's Tyler's first rousing, emotional speech of the evening. He says...
You wrote it down so you could get it tattooed on you later.
Great idea. I'm with you. And I don't want to be anywhere else. There's nothing I've ever wanted more. Just to look at you and be here. He's so in the moment. Wherever we are, though, we could be in a little apartment trying to argue about the paint we're putting on the walls. I just want to be there. I would like to ask you to imagine a life where you get to argue with Tyler about the paint you're putting on your walls.
And he's a contractor. He's very experienced, presumably, in house building and house. This is his field. This is his happy place.
It's true.
It's true. It was such a. How did he come up with that as like the perfect, it was such a sweet moment to choose out of like an entire, normally people would have said like bringing our kids to school on the first day.
Well, we do get that from him though. So let's take both speeches into account together, because when we shift to the evening portion, which is at Tyler's pad, he wants to talk about the future. He says we can be kick-ass in our marriage.
That was a good quote. That's another.
My man tattoo. Is a modern day poet. We can be kick-ass in our marriage is iconic. And he names their first child, right? When he's talking about the future, he says,
Timmy?
Little Timmy.
Timmy.
Little Timmy.
That is a little bit presumptuous. I will say, like, it's sweet that he's thinking about it that way, but people have very strong child naming opinions. Maybe Hannah doesn't want a Timmy.
I viewed it as, I'm just showing you how serious I am about our future, that I'm already thinking about the children that I want to have with you. But girl, if you don't like the name Timmy, that's fine. Tell me what name you do like.
He's willing to compromise on the paint on the house. Presumably he can compromise on Timmy.
That's exactly right. So then we get the next speech. Another seemingly completely organic, off the dome declaration of love and intent.
Who is...
This one is almost too much. These feelings, I don't ever want to lose them. I don't ever want to let go of them. I want to cherish them forever because you make me the happiest I've ever been, and I don't see that changing. And then we segue pretty quickly to Hannah saying to the camera that Tyler is perfect and she is not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly good at speaking. I noticed this earlier in the season when he told Cam, we need rules on The Bachelor because otherwise we'd be like a first grade soccer game.
That's right.
And I thought, wow, that's such an apt metaphor. That's perfect.
He's insightful.
He's insightful.
He understands human nature.
He's got wisdom behind those perfect nostrils of his. Did you hear that squeal? That was a squeal. That was an actual squeal.
It's more like a shriek, but...
Come on. It was a squeal of laughter.
I'm sure Tyler has made many women squeal over the course of his life. I have no doubt. Perfect segue. We then go up to bed with them. They... Again, and I can't really express adequately enough how shocking this is. They do not fuck. But they roll around together a lot. They make out. They seem very passionate.
They love rolling around. They're huge rolling around fans.
I would like to issue one of Tyler's first demerits of this experience.
Really?
Shoes in bed.
Yeah, but they were so passionate that he didn't have time to take the shoes off.
No. I don't care that it's not actually his home and that it's just
a hotel. You're allowed to.
Reprehensible.
Well, I've still never forgiven. On last season, Colton claimed that he was a little bit OCD and then brought his shoes into bed, which is like, I
thought you were going to bring up his clearly fake apartment that he pretended was his.
Oh my God, yeah, that they had like generic pictures of dogs that weren't the same breed as his dog up on the wall.
Incredible stuff. When Hannah is leaving, she says, Tyler makes me feel so special and so loved. I don't want him to let go of me. I could see being in his arms forever.
I feel like one problem here is you're getting really hung up on how perfect Tyler is.
Yeah.
Which is important.
But we should be focusing on how awful Jed is. We also need to talk
about how awful Jed is.
Let's move on. Let's move on to Jed. You're right. It's time. It's time. Get out the spoons and eat some better bowl.
It's like truly one of the most impressively bad final impressions that you could like leave on someone.
Yeah.
The part with the parents goes horribly.
Awful.
It's not just that he's a struggling artist. He's in his 20s. That happens.
Sure.
He's not really good at defending any part of his life. He doesn't do a good job of like in like reassuring them or like telling them how much he loves her. He gets very caught up in trying to defend this and fails completely.
Yeah.
He spends the entire date with Hannah like, I'm just so bummed that you could break up with me tomorrow. Which is like, that's not how you should be trying. That shouldn't be your final impression. You should be making the argument not to do that, not being like, I'm so worried that.
Right. Okay, so let's actually, before we go play by play here with Jed, let's pan back for a minute. Because I think one thing that is sincerely different about this season is that even, given how much we love Tyler, even given how fond we are of Peter, we have not spent a ton of time with Hannah and any of the guys that she might end up with because of the Luke P. near season-long edit. Was there a moment entering the finale, and I will ask you if you can try as a thought experiment to push out of your mind everything that you know about Jed in the real world.
I've tried to do that. I try to ignore that.
Was there a moment where you thought, I wonder if there's enough time left on the 2-part finale for Jed to win us over, or at least for us to understand what Hannah sees in him? Or did it just seem impossible?
He's never seemed interested in doing that. He spent most of the previous date, also the previous date during the Fantasy Suites episode, he spent mainly like, you got to get rid of Luke. When they were at his hometown the date before that, it was mainly his family telling Hannah, this seems like a bad idea.
That's right.
It's been like a parade of bad experiences that they've had together. And like everyone is very negative, including Jed, most of all.
Yes.
It's like, it's baffling to see the juxtaposition because Tyler is so positive about everything and Jed is so negative about everything.
Yeah, he's very insecure and he needs a lot of affirmation. And when he doesn't get it and feel like it's the main priority of the other person to give that affirmation to him, he crumbles. He falls apart.
Whereas Tyler is an affirmation machine, nonstop. You are my wonderful queen and every decision you make is the right one and I stand by you.
Yeah, that contrast between them is stark, really stark, and you felt it a lot in this episode. And yet, despite all that, the initial note when Jed is about to meet Hannah's family is her telling her family, who again has already met Tyler at this point. Tyler's family visit happened first. She tells them that she's nervous just because, the whole scenario, it's about time for her to make a decision. But she also says that Jed, quote, has been the one from the very beginning that I was just like, this person fits in my life. I found that like fairly shocking, despite the amount of time that we have seen with Hannah and Jed where clearly she's into him. Like she's obviously been into him the whole time. She confessed her feelings to him pretty early on while they were in a very intimate moment in bed with just the two of them and Jed's guitar.
As always. Stunning that he didn't bring the guitar to Greece or find another guitar. How did he find that guitar in Latvia? We never got that clarification. Anyway, moving on.
Clearly part of why he was so unmoored in this episode. He didn't have the anchor of his guitar in his hands.
There were no musical instruments anywhere. He was like trying to find some sort of stray ukulele.
Did not stop him from bringing up music in the family meeting within
12 seconds?
12 seconds. Maybe 18 if we're being charitable.
So what's your future like? Well, as a musician.
Their facial expressions. Like, we only really spent time with Hannah's father and mother in this episode, but everyone who was on that couch was, like, seemingly mortified by how he was presenting this right off the bat. And then he says to the family, I have the best intentions, the most pure intentions on watching after her and loving her through everything, which we know is not true. And again, not only because of what we've learned about Jed since, but because
he said on this season.
Right. He literally told Hannah on this show that was not true. Now, could he have developed sincere feelings since then? Possibly. Could he have deluded himself into thinking that he's developed sincere feelings? Maybe. But on this season of this television show, Jed said out loud with cameras around them to Hannah's face that he came on this television show for his career. So to then say that he has pure intentions is fucking bullshit, and I can't stand this guy.
We know that there's at least a part of him who rationally, and very rationally, if you're a musician and you're on The Bachelorette, that's huge. You know that there's a part of him that needs that in his life, that needs to use this as a platform.
Yes, which we have probably never felt more keenly than we did tonight. We have arrived at long last at the dog food jingle moment.
The dog food jingle moment is like an iconic instant.
Where does it rate? Where does it rate for you in Bachelor history?
You know, it's honestly, I do feel a little bit for Jed because I'm a writer. My girlfriend is a sculptor. It's hard to find jobs in the arts.
Yeah.
You've got to do things to make ends meet. Jed, for example, takes his shirt off for Bachelorette parties in Nashville.
Right. Which is fine.
And he's proud that he's found his first job. He found his first job. But the way he phrases it specifically is my most major accomplishment.
That's right. And the backdrop for this is that Hannah's dad, in his one-on-one with Jed, is pressing Jed on financial viability. Like, are you going to be able to provide for my daughter and for your family? And Jed initially says, I just want to have as many facets of income and backup plans as I can. I don't know what that means.
Which, yeah, that doesn't, those are just words that you read on like a.
Like, does that mean he's willing to do something other than music if music doesn't work out? Or does
like
that mean that he's always going to be pursuing music no matter what, but will supplement as needed? How is he supplementing? How much is he sharing about how he's supplementing?
But let's get to his most major accomplishment.
Most major accomplishment. So Hannah's dad presses him, to explain not only his career, but his plan for his career. And here's Jed's quote in full.
Don't worry, Pops.
At this point, my most major accomplishment is that I signed a deal with a dog food company. I've already written like their jingle, and that's been like my first real breakthrough. I was like, oh, this is the start of something. Now,
he doesn't frame it like it's the start of something, though. He frames it like, don't worry, guys. I got this.
This is astonishing stuff. This is an astonishing moment in television history. I want to go back to what you were saying a second ago about being a creator, because I actually think it is really important to say this out loud and to tell people that we mean this sincerely. There is nothing wrong with pursuing your passions. That's amazing. We work at a place that's built on passion and obsession. Jed is passionate about this. That is great. And for most people, I think we would support it. There's something so phony about the way that he presents it. And that's why, like, I think it's really telling. If a lot of other people said that, we would be like, wow, that's actually really cool. You got a gig. It's like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You got to get the first gig wherever you can, right? To work your way up to Midtown. Like, that's part of life. That's fine. That's admirable, actually. But Jed always just presents everything like the world owes him something, and I find that so repellent. And I think a lot of other people feel that way too. The other thing is, like, we love animals. Couple animal lovers here. Dog food, amazing. Feed your pets, nurture them. Make sure the ingredients are fresh and healthy. That's wonderful. But the way that he said it, it's just.
And then the dad summarizes it well when he talks to Hannah. He says, well, he seemed very proud of the dog food song.
That was, I think, arguably an even better moment than Jed's initial reveal, because the look on Hannah's dad's face when Jed said this to him was so tremendous that we've already converted it into an emoji for Ring or Slack. Just that snapshot of his face.
It's the face of pure disappointment. It's the face of
it's befuddlement.
It's the face of like, yeah, I'm confused why you think this would help. And that's the way it is. Like, why would he say it in this way in an attempt to impress and not like, it was so strange. It was.
One of the things that clearly concerns her family and people in general about Jed is that he doesn't seem to have a strong grasp on reality, right? And I think the way that he presented this forced you to think about that. Also, like, the start of something, again, yes, by the very definition and nature of time being linear, doing something is always the start of something because it comes before whatever you do next. That's true. And again, I think with most people, we would be willing to say, you're working for it. You're trying to realize your dream. That's awesome. That's certainly how Hannah is thinking about it, because she talks about how they're both dreamers. This comes later. What we have now is Jed saying to the camera, I feel a little confused. And then it seemed like they were mainly concerned about the financial aspect of our relationship. Here's why I find this fascinating. He resents the fact that her family is obsessing over his music career when that is the only thing that he is focused on.
It's all he ever talks about. Of course they're.
Right. So again, we are making fun of the dog food thing, but not purely because it's a dog food thing. It's because he just wants everything to happen on his own terms, and that's really alienating. It really sincerely is. He says they don't think I'm adequate or something. Again, I think that's a line where if most people on the show said that, it would be pretty heart-wrenching. You would really feel bad. We are empathetic people by nature. When someone says that, your instinct is supposed to be to feel bad for that person. That's not what happened when you heard Jed say that, is it?
No.
That's fascinating.
You're sort of in your head like, Yeah.
Right.
They nailed it.
Right. And then, just like we kind of can't help but be candid about how we feel about Jed, Hannah's family couldn't either. And so we get this moment with her dad, this just tremendous moment where he says, while he's explaining that he doesn't think basically Jed knows how to express himself concisely or at all, he says he was very proud of the dog food jingle that he did. And Hannah can't really reply. She doesn't have a comeback for that.
I get the sense she hadn't heard about the dog food jingle yet.
Do you think that's true?
I get the sense that like she had just been like, oh, it's time for me to play my guitar in our hotel room. It's time for me to play the piano for you. And he was never like, well, yeah, I'm pretty accomplished because of the dog food jingle, which is what he said to the dad.
Interesting.
I don't think he ever framed it that way to her.
That's interesting. I perceived it as she knew about it. He had also expressed his pride to her. And that, again, because her predisposition here is to say, Jed and I have something in common, which is that we both want to pursue our passion and pursue our dreams. She found it charming and winning because she doesn't see the side of him that everyone else finds so alienating.
Also, when you tell Hannah that someone sucks, which is what happened to her all season with Luke.
She doubles down.
She doubles down.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit worried that's what's happening with Jetty Boy here.
Do you think, another thought experiment here, if Luke had not been around at all or for as long as he had been, that Hannah would have had clarity sooner about who Jed is? Because other people would have been focusing on him.
Jed is, excepting like the early season guys, Jed is pretty obviously the next worst person there. Right. But in comparison to Luke, he's like he's a gem. Fine.
Yeah, a gem. Okay, so the internet exists for moments like last night where Jed mentions that he
has a dog food
jingle. That it's his most major accomplishment. Internet to the rescue. This is for a company called Better Bowl. First, Dylan Berkey sends it to us. It's the YouTube link, which is 2 lines. You want to sing it?
You've been singing all morning.
Sing it with me. Come on. Get in on it with me.
No, I'm not being paid by Better Bowl right now.
The dog really does deserve the best. So go pick him up some Better Bowl.
Kind of love like nothing you've seen before. I know Better Bowl must be loving this free advertising. Entered last night's live finale, I believe, with 11 Twitter followers. Just a real riser of the night. The second line is, the dog really does deserve the best. Go pick him up some Better Bowl. Then we got a longer version.
You know the lyrics to the longer version too, I'm assuming.
Tweeted out by Better Bowl itself. Someone on the Better Bowl social team knows how to capitalize on a moment. # Jed Wyatt in the tweet. Own that social SEO. I respect it.
This is like Chris Harrison bringing the table in.
It's true. It's the same jingle, except there's one extra line. The new opening line in this cute little shot of a puppy waiting by the front door is, you get home and know who's been waiting, wagging by the door. So now, we have a lot to break down here.
So here's my... First of all, Jed's not great at singing. We've heard that. If you've listened to his songs on YouTube, if you've listened to
Mr. Right.
And then he tries to hit the high notes. He's not good at the high notes.
Yeah.
He's not good at he's not a charismatic singer. That's another thing. To become a professional musician, you have to be somewhat charismatic personally. Right. So the fact that he clearly sucks for the whole season kind of tells us that he's not going to be a successful musician.
Well, he is brooding, though. That can work sometimes. I do not believe that Jed has a musical future, but I'm just saying, if he leaned into
he's got a great future of recording cameos for people.
That's true. I'm really struck by the fact that Rain or Shine kind of love like nothing you've seen before.
He wrote that knowing he was going on The Bachelor.
This is a love song, not a dog food jingle. That's like the same kind of vibe as Mr. Right, isn't it?
Yeah, and it does not seem to necessarily be the relationship that he has with Hannah, where in fact there is rain and there is shine, and sometimes he gets upset about things and does not like the way that things are going.
Well, I suppose it's a matter of perspective. Kind of love like nothing you've seen before.
That's fair.
It's true in some ways.
We haven't seen a love like this on The Bachelor before.
He and Better Bowl are framing it as a positive, but you can perceive it any way you want. Your other issue with this is that it's not catchy.
The thing about a jingle is it must be catchy. A jingle must... Even if it doesn't, even if you don't like the 1-800 Cards for Kids song, you know about 1-800 Cars for Kids.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Do you think that right here, right now, we could write a better jingle? Just a line or two. Like something that's catchy, something that conveys that this is actually about dog food and not. And I want to be clear. I think the love that you have with an animal is an everlasting love, but that this is not dating show everlasting love. Give me your best.
It
shot.
also sounded very much like his other songs.
Yes.
Which is kind
he
of
literally has one note. He's trying to play the kibbles and hits, but it's not working, Rodger.
Oh my God, kibbles and hits. She nailed it. That was good.
Thank you. Give me your jingle. Let's hear it. This is organic right now. We're just workshopping it. It's like we're in the studio. That one time, like Hannah and Jed were in the studio and they wrote a love song about something in the stars. Remember? Right now. Let's do it.
Except, he definitely had written that before. I keep getting mad at. He keeps on saying that he's writing a song on the spot, and he very obviously is it. Okay, whatever. She's going for it.
Rain or shine. Okay, so I got it. You ready? If he's big, make him small. If he's small, get him swole. Pick him up some better bull.
It doesn't have a. I think you missed the song part of it.
I, unlike Jed, do not pretend to be a musician.
Give your dog some Purina. She'll be the happiest you've ever seen her.
That's a different brand, but it was
okay. But we're
it
not
was wonderful.
Better Bowl is not paying me. Better Bowl, if you want to send me dog food, I'll write a better jingle. Laz and Tato can grow up big and strong because of you guys.
All right, we're going to keep workshopping it from here. We'll see where we land. I feel like we're onto something here.
The question is, are we better at doing a jingle than
Yes.
Jed? And I feel like my Purina song was that catchy?
It was. It was.
Should be the happiest you've ever seen.
I like what you're doing with your voice there.
I'm a great singer.
Are
I'm better
you?
No, I'm not. I'm terrible.
But like on the Jed scale?
That's the thing. The thing is, Jed is like actively.
Yes, it's tough.
Yeah, so like it's a tough look. And
do you think that I would be
maybe his way of getting into it is songwriting, because that's like you don't have to sing for that. But he demanded on singing the Better Bowl jingle.
He did.
Where they could have probably found someone else to do it. And
good for him.
He very much wants to be an upfront person.
Cash that check. Do you think that he can write a cat food jingle? Do you know that my cat Halo, that his cat food brand is Halo? Isn't that wild?
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really think you actually have to know anything about pets to write a proper pet food jingle. You just have to say you love your pet.
Yeah.
It has to be catchy, which the Better Bowl song isn't. How does it end? It goes like, your dog deserves the best. And he really sells the best. He sells the best so hard on the song. I don't remember how the Give Him Some Better Bowl part goes. I just remember that he hits the best so hard. The thing is, he's trying to sell himself on the jingle, much like he is trying to sell himself on this season of The Bachelorette, where he does not truly love Hannah. Moving on to the important thing, which is that tonight there is a very big decision to be made.
Wait, we have a lot to get to before that, though, even though we're really long, because we haven't talked about Hannah and Jed talking about how poorly things went, which was fascinating. We have to remember that Jed's family also did not like Hannah, right? That went horribly.
That's the thing. Every single interaction with Jed has gone badly. The family went badly.
Clearly, they were not into the entire thing. Now, Hannah's family is not into it. When Hannah asks her mom what she thinks of Jed, her first response is, he has qualities. He has qualities.
That's true. That's definitely
classic
true.
If you don't have anything nice to say, kind of like hedging.
He has qualities. I'll give him that.
She's worried about his lifestyle, about
playing in bars until all hours of the night.
Late night at bars. But then she also says, and this is a moment that we had seen in trailers, that she wants someone, quote, who will love you like I know you should be loved. I thought that was interesting because that didn't seem to me like it was about money. That didn't seem to me like it was about financial security. That seemed like they were getting another whiff of something they didn't like from Jed, and the edit just didn't focus on that. So I think there was a lot that they didn't like about him, right?
Yes.
Clearly does not sit well with Hannah. She says, this is not about anything else but me, but now I'm freaking out. I do want to say that when her dad was explaining to Hannah how much he didn't like Jed, saying, beat around the bush a little bit, but I think that's kind of his personality to over-explain things, which again is just a savage dig. And then he gets to the dog food line.
He seems very proud of it.
I was not personally a fan of her dad's stance on the man needing to be the provider in a family. And Hannah was not a fan of it either. And I think it was a good thing that she stood up for herself in that moment and said, I can be the earner. I can be the provider. I don't need someone to take care of me.
I'm very happy roasting his career without making it into like a patriarchal thing.
But we did sort of veer into that, which was unfortunate.
I didn't like that.
Clearly, in general, they just did not like Jed. And her dad says, I don't want you to settle for anything, which again is very notable. At this point, Hannah is concerned, which indicates clearly that Jed is her favorite. Like, you don't respond that way if you're not leaning toward picking him. Everything that she said from that point in the episode onward about how nervous she was, how she didn't want to make the wrong choice, indicated that the things that her family said to her about Jed forced her to think about the fact that the person she wants to be with maybe isn't the right one. I read that as a clear Jed is the front runner. There are so many indicators that she's going towards Jed.
Yes. I mean, first of all, just the way they've responded to all the girlfriend stuff is like, they're like, wait and see for yourself, which is not what you say if the guy is trash.
Correct. You're right. So then we get the next date with them. That's just the two of them. They're on
a very rocky boat, rain or shine.
Symbolic choppy waters, Rodger. Here are a few of the lines we get about the choppy waters in one of the best instances of meta commentary in Bachelor history. Hannah says, is this really rocky or is it just me? Indeed. Jed, this is incredible. This guy has no self-awareness. Says, I see some treachery up ahead. I see some treacherous seas. Do you see your girlfriend out in the water? Is that what you're looking at? And then Hannah says, I don't know if I like all these rocky waters. And then literally vomits on her date with Jed.
Can we point out also that when beautiful, handsome, muscular Tyler took Hannah on a boat-related date,
she did not vomit. There
were perfect seas. They had a wonderful time. Tyler is a much better captain. Jed was not even piloting this boat.
He was trying to I couldn't tell if he was trying to hold her steady or to lift her.
Or to help her vomit into the ocean.
That was confusing. You're right. Tyler can also control the weather in addition to everything else that we did in that we've learned about him.
Zeus-esque.
In classic Jed fashion.
Just FYI.
I know.
Oh, no, wait. Zeus was Peter. Sorry. I got the whole mythology messed up.
Tyler's everyone. In classic fashion, Jed makes it all about him by saying that Hannah's dad's lack of faith in him and his career, again, this is a person he's known for 14 minutes, hurt him. It's not like I only know how to do music, you know? Well, no, Jed, we don't know because music is literally the only thing you've talked about the entire time you've been on the show. What else can Jed do? We don't know.
The amount of times where he has sang to her leads me to believe that there's no more there than that. And yet
there's no depth that we've seen.
And it also, once again, brings me back to the premise that he just wants people to hear him sing, which, I mean, how can you avoid that? You know, you hate to fall into the traps that The Bachelor sets for you with the edits.
Right.
But also this guy, it's kind of clear that this is a guy who wants people to hear him sing, and how else do you sing to 20 million people, you know?
Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to ask you before we switch to quickly previewing night 2. Is there a single part of you that believes that Jed really is in love with Hannah and wants to be with her? Because he did spend a little bit of time in the evening portion of their date when they're back in his room, not only expressing his anxiety and his vulnerability, but making really one of his first and only efforts of the season so far to attempt to express something resembling sincerity. I think I have enough hedges in there. He says, I would have loved you. I don't care where you would be on this planet. Yeah. If I had met you outside of this anywhere, this is when she says, do you basically just think that this is just about this? He says, I want more than anything to take care of you. I want to be there for you through thick and thin. I feel like with you, I feel like I could do anything. I feel like forever with you is I've never had it make sense with anyone. Seriously, I've never even considered it. Do you believe that? Do you think Jed believes that?
Again, that's like the same speech he gives the dog wagging its tail at the door in the Better Bowl commercial. But I wouldn't be. I mean, she's a very attractive person.
Yeah, it's not a commentary on Hannah.
Yeah,
it's a question about whether you think Jed is sincere. Or any of the things he's professing genuine.
I suspect he wants to be with her and also knows that being with her would be the best thing possible for his goals in life of being a musician.
Right.
Like it's a mutual thing. He like winning this show, being with her, you know, moving up from Better Bowl to other Instagram opportunities.
That's right. Yeah. So the life of an influencer awaits him.
And it's not 100% is the key. Even if there is a part of him, it's not 100%.
I'll be curious to see if that changes at all tonight. So let's look ahead. The Chris Harrison TRT in the pre-taped, the Grease portion was thanks to Kaya for looking this up for us, for calculating it. A robust 16 seconds. Obviously, we got a lot of Chris in studio at the live show. We will again tonight. He
did his job on the live show.
He seems ready to experience the drama with us, as he's told us many times. Even he doesn't know, Rodger. Even he doesn't know what's happening. I think there are two ways to look at that. Okay, glad you asked. There is what the edit indicates is going to happen, and then there is what logic and decency demand. Logic, sense, decency, the heart, the eyes, the soul, all of it, we're on the same page. We are united with each other and with the rest of the world. Hannah has to pick Tyler.
She must. And
it is the only choice that makes sense.
It's like one of these things where like I claim that I watch The Bachelorette because it's funny and like because dumb stuff happens and guys will throw baloney at each other and there'll be stupid fights.
Shots,
Like, and I pretend that like I'm just here to see them go on stupid dates and like, haha, this is all funny. But right now I'm like locked in. Like if she does not choose Tyler, I will be upset.
Furious.
I cannot remember a situation where it was this start. The only thing that came to mind was, if you remember, when there was Jordan and Robbie who sucked.
Yes.
Like just every part about Robbie sucked and everything about Jordan like seemed good. If she picks Jed, that would be the worst decision in Bachelor or Bachelorette history.
It's hard to think of too many other things that would even be in the running. And again, part of that is colored by what we know about Jed's life outside of the show, but we're at the point where we can't separate that. I'm glad you mentioned JoJo and Jordan, because that gets to the second way that we can look ahead, which is what the edit indicates. Okay, and that's where we get back to Chris Harrison. That's where we get to the family visits, etc. JoJo Jordan was a kind of like quintessential Bachelor example of, it seemed at least, editing the family visits in a way to try to introduce suspense there where there was none, right? Let's have her family just clearly fall in love with Robbie and express some concerns about Jordan so that we can try to dupe the audience for a moment longer than anybody really believes into thinking that there's some suspense here. It was Jordan from the beginning.
It truly seemed so miserable. The Jet experience seemed so miserable that it didn't seem like an edit.
That's right. That's the thing. That was what was so uncommon. It's like, it's a Bachelor staple to edit the winner's family visit in a way that makes you doubt the outcome. It did not seem like that's what happened here. It seemed like that was very sincere, to the point where we hear Hannah express it not only to Jed, but to us, right? The family didn't like him. That's uncommon.
There were like no smiles. There was no happiness. There was everything. Jed just sucks the joy and the life out of situations, and he makes them worse. And it's really alarming me how upset I am.
I love how mad you are. I love it. I think it's great. So normally a family visit like that would seem like a clear indicator that Jed was going to win, because that's a trick in the bag. But in this case, I don't know that we can read into it that much.
I'm getting strong Jed's going to win vibes.
I think there are a couple other things, though, that seemed pretty unambiguous. One, Chris Harrison opens the episode by saying that even he doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow night. Now, as you noted, he literally does know what's going to happen in Greece. That's everyone in the Bachelor family who makes the show knows what the outcome is, knows who Hannah picks. So that statement, let me know if you think there's a different way to interpret this, to me played clearly as there's fallout coming. Now, will Hannah grill Jed regardless of whether she ends up with him? Sure, I guess. But if she doesn't pick him, it just flat out is not as big of a deal, all of the girlfriend stuff. So that comment from Chris Harrison indicated the potential for some sort of change from how things end in Greece, I thought. Is that how you perceived it?
So I think the scenario that seems likely is she picks Jed. a monstrous, awful decision that will go down in history.
Right.
And then tonight is the night where she confronts him about all the stuff that's developed and broken since the show ended.
Right.
And there'll be like a scene where they show her finding out about stuff, and now it's her time to answer questions. And they keep saying there are questions that I need to be answered.
This is the other thing.
So are they going to bring him out on stage and grill him about all that stuff? And here's the other question. Could they do that with Tyler winning? Could Tyler win and then Hannah gets her chance to say, hey, Jed, were you a lying piece of garbage? A lying piece of dog food?
Were you the worst bull, Jed?
Yeah, yes.
It's definitely possible. I mean, it could still go either way, but I think that Chris Harrison thing, and as you noted, a lot of these social media vibes, like Tyler is incredibly active on social, really clearly out there living his life. Jed has been very much in the shadows, maybe just because of the scandal, and he can't address it until he's off the show. But the way that the episode ended was Hannah asking for a moment to address the audience directly and saying, quote, I know there are a lot of rumors out there, and honestly, tomorrow night, I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a lot of questions that need to be answered, so I hope I'll be able to do that. Now, unambiguously, that is about Jed's girlfriend. There's nothing else that could mean, I don't think. But I was watching that and I was like, they just gave away the end of the show. Because do I hope she picks Tyler? Yes. Is it still possible? Sure. You don't say that if you didn't pick Jed. You only say that if you pick him, I think, right? I think we're going to get the outcome in the first 20 or 30 minutes of the show. That's all the footage we're going to see. And then the rest of it is going to be fallout.
And then she'll pick Jed in the first 20 minutes. I'll immediately go to the airport, board a plane to Alabama to yell at random people in Alabama on the street about how their state has disappointed me.
This is the other thing. The flip side of that tea leaf reading is that if the showrunners, if the producers were confident, let's say she does pick Jed, if they were confident that she was going to break it off with him and try to get back with Tyler or Peter or who knows, we would have gotten a different edit.
Yeah,
we would have gotten the Ari Becca edit.
We would have
that
gotten,
was all night too.
It feels like if it wasn't Jed, they would have been so much more critical of Jed this entire time.
Yeah.
And they haven't been. They've kept saying, wait and see. We're confident in what's happening. This
concerning.
You need to
troubling.
You need to trust us. That
worrying.
Truly,
worrying,
truly upsetting.
Rodger.
We're sitting here.
Oh, it's upsetting.
If you want to feed your puppy well, and you don't want the poop to smell, give them some better bowl.
I feel like that goes beyond.
You can't promise that they're
into just a lie that you'd get sued for.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's just misleading advertising.
I just rhymed
but it
well
was,
and smell in my head.
It was compelling as art.
The thing is, I got the hooks and Jed doesn't.
It's true. You're right.
I got the hooks, I got the pipes, and Jed is out there with boring, weak-ass garbage that's winning Hannah over instead of Tyler's perfect. We also haven't mentioned how perfect Tyler is in a good 20 minutes.
I know. Unbelievable restraint and discipline on our parts. That brings us to the end of our journey. Hopefully it's not the end of Tyler's journey.
I know there's got to be more Tyler out there. Yeah, if he doesn't win tonight, I'm telling you.
He will be in our lives in some way.
If he doesn't win tonight,
I have no doubt.
I mean, first of all, he's making the world a better place.
It's true.
In general, his Twitter feed is just a source of joy. He's working for charities. He's
wonderful. Making
people happy every day. And he's got to be the next Bachelor if he loses. I'm sorry to Peter. I'm sorry to Mike, but Tyler is too beloved by everyone they can't let him go. He's very special. We have more Tyler coming to our screens tonight for part 2 of the most dramatic finale. Shortly ever, Rodger. Shortly ever. Thank you to you. Thank you to everyone who joined us, who listened and watched today. Thank you to our sponsor, Cape Line. And to Better Bowl. Please return to the Ringer tomorrow for Bachelor Party on night 2 with the Podfather himself, Bill Simmons. Share your anger. If Jed wins. Or joy. You could be happy. Share your anger if Tyler wins, because it means he can't be the Bachelor. There's probably going to be something to be mad about no matter what. We'll get through it all together. In the meantime, pick him up some Better Bowl, won't you? They're not paying us. They're paid Jed, not us.